I started hiking when I was probably 22 or 23, and I started hiking locally, Garden of the Gods. I rock climbed when I was in junior high and high school, and then I gradually started moving towards 14ers. So I started with Pikes Peak. Believe it or not, Pikes Peak was my first 14er up Bar Trail, 13.8 miles. And then I did 17 other 14ers in the state of Colorado. So I started having shortness of breath. The first time I noticed it was when I was getting out of my car and walking into work. I felt almost like there was a belt on me and that somebody was pulling me and that I was fighting against that current. And then it got to be where when I was walking, I couldn't talk at the same time. It was that bad. So I went to an asthma specialist. They said, well, this doesn't really seem like asthma, but here is an inhaler. Have a great day. On July 28th, 2016, I was at work. It was a normal day. I was the closing manager, and I was in the back room talking to one of my employees. And as I was talking to her, all of a sudden, I really wasn't fully sure what she was saying. I started having blurry vision, and all of a sudden I realized, okay, I can't do this anymore. So I moved into my office and sat in my chair, and she followed me in. And at first she kind of was joking, like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And then she realized I was not okay. So she called 911, and they took her through the steps to determine if somebody's having a stroke. So the facial drooping, can you lift your arm above your head, all those steps. I failed every single one of them. They decided to keep me overnight for observation, and they said they wanted to do a few more tests in the morning. So they said, okay, well, we're going to send you home in a little bit. We have one more test, which was the echocardiogram. So the technician came in, set me up. She's talking. All of a sudden, she stopped talking and started measuring a very large mass that was kind of whitish grayish. Suddenly it got very serious. The cardiac surgeon on duty came in, said you have the largest myxoma, which is a heart tumor that he'd pretty much ever seen. We need to do emergency open heart surgery. This was on a Friday, and we scheduled the surgery for Saturday a.m.
I was really scared because I didn't know what was going to happen to her. I thought she was going to die. Everybody was there around me, and they were all crying, and so I didn't know what to think, so I just started crying. And so when I went home that night, I was scared that entire night.
I think it was just very scary to think about, that there's a pretty decent risk.
They determined I had 10% blood flow, which is why I was having such a hard time breathing. What's really interesting is once I was diagnosed with the myxoma, as scared as I was, I also was really relieved because I finally understood what was wrong with me. Leaving the hospital, getting in the car and being able to just breathe, even getting out of the car a week after having open heart surgery and to be able to walk up my stairs, I could get up my stairs easier after having open heart surgery than I could have before. So the reason I had to have a pacemaker implanted is because the myxoma was so large that when they removed it, they had to take out my entire atrial septum. So they went back and forth because I didn't really need it unless I was exerting myself, but because I wanted to hike mountains again and I wanted to travel and do the things I wanted to do, we decided that for quality of life, I would need to get a pacemaker. One of my conditions, not that I really had the say, but when I talked to the cardiac surgeon, he said I needed to have the surgery. I said, okay, well, we have this trip planned in 6 weeks. Am I going to be able to do it? He said, as long as you recover, okay, then yes, you can go. So 5 weeks and 6 days after the surgery, we were on a flight to Rome. And we were able to hike around the Forum. We went to the Coliseum. I was right behind him the whole time with my bag. I had a little backpack, and it was amazing because he was so used to walking ahead of me and having to stop and wait for me to catch up. And I remember him turning around a couple of times. And I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm right here.
It was really incredible just to see going up the steps of the Acropolis to the Parthenon, and that she was right with me. There are hundreds of people up there, and people were having to stop, and she's just moving right on up.
It was 6 weeks after open heart surgery, I was engaged in Rome. Isn't that awesome?
2 years after my mom's surgery, she's doing really well now. She's in front of me now when we're walking up hills. I'm the one that's like, stop, let me catch my breath.
We've just recently started hiking mountains again. Being able to do something that I loved so much years ago and be able to do it again with my family, it means the world to me. My prognosis is really great. I'm expected to do just fine, other than having in about 10 years to get that new pacemaker. Everything should be great. It's important for people to fund the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, anything that those organizations support in terms of pacemakers, open heart surgery, research. Because if you think about every single person that's watching this video, or every single person in your life, we all know somebody who's been touched by heart disease. We all know somebody who has had a stroke or who's had a heart attack, every single one of us. I don't know 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if I would have lived if it hadn't been for the research and the studies to really dive deep and do all the tests that needed to be done to find this myxoma. So I'm really grateful.